All right, guys, on this video, we're going to do a quick intro of how to do consecutive integer word problems. All right, and really what this is just going to go over is how to get the setup. We've been working on word problems now for about a week, and the main thing is getting the setup and figuring out what is X. So to kind of get that setup, what I would usually do when I teach this lesson in classes, I would always ask students, well, what does consecutive mean? All right, kind of consecutive means one after the other. So if I gave an example of consecutive integers, I could just start with 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? They're consecutive, they're one after another. Now, if you look, to get the next number, you would just keep adding one. So if I want to get the next number, I would add 1 to 4, I would get 5, 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7, and so on. So if I want to get consecutive integers, and I want to put it in terms of x, when I look at this first one, it says write an algebraic phrase for each of the following. Okay, let's even get rid of this. I don't even need where it says the sum of two consecutive integers. Okay, I'm just going to look at this is the main part where it says two consecutive integers. So I'm going to look at the first. I'll put int for an abbreviation for integer, and then I'll put second. All right. Now, this should be a little bit easier for you. When we did word problems, like when we did length and width, either the length was X or the width was X. We did word problems before that. You could have had 3 or 4 quantities. You had to figure out what was X. What's going to be easier is the first integer we're always going to say is X. All right. And then all the integers after it, I'm just going to add 1. So example, like if I said this was X, I would add 1 to it to give me the next one. Right? I would add 1 to the 2 to give me the next one of 3. So the second integer is just going to be x plus 1. All right. So that's going to be our setup. Now I know it says sum, and maybe I might just do it for this one. Eventually, it'll give you key phrases and you'll have to get an equation. For this, if it says the sum of two consecutive integers, well then you would just take both of these and you would add them up. And you would have x plus 1. Now, it doesn't say what the sum is, but when you get to the word problem, it'll give that to you. So I'm not really going to focus on this. So let's get rid of this where it says the sum, because that really is dealing with setting up the equation, which is not the main purpose of this video. The main purpose of this video is getting this set up. All right. Now, the second one, it says 3 consecutive integers. So now at my setup, I'm just going to add a third integer. So I'll put first integer, put second integer, and then I want to add this third integer. All right. Now, as I mentioned for the first one, we're going to make this simple, and we're always going to make the first integer x. So there's a little bit less thinking. Now, the second integer, I just add 1 to it, so I get x plus 1. So it's just like the last one. Now, the third integer, I add another 1 to it. So this becomes x plus 2. All right. If I were to do the fourth consecutive integer, it would be x plus 3. If I were to do the fifth consecutive integer, it would be x plus 4. And it would keep going. You keep adding 1 to it. So that's our setup. All right. Now, the next two, we change it up. For 3, it says consecutive even integers. All right. So I would normally ask students in class to say, hey, give me an example of 3 consecutive even integers. And a lot of times they'd say, oh, Mr. Mel, here's an example. If I had 2, 4, and 6. And if I kept going, let's say I keep going. Now, the difference here with this list compared to the first one is that now it goes up by 2 in between, right? If I have 2 and I want to get the next consecutive even integer, I would add 2 to it, right? If I have 4, I add 2 to that to give me 6. I add 2 to the 6 to give me 8. I add 2 to the 8 to give me 10. So when we get this setup right here, okay, it says 3 consecutive even integers. Okay, the first is still going to be x. Okay, and we have the second and the third. Here's the difference. Instead of it being x plus 1, which we got on the first two, the fact that it says even is that you're going to keep adding 2 to get the next consecutive even integer. So the second one's going to be x plus 2. And then the third consecutive even, I would add another 2 to that, so it would be x plus 4. Okay, and that's the setup. Now, when I do consecutive odd integers, okay, again, I would ask students, hey, give me an example of consecutive odd integers. I'm going to write it here to the side, like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. These are consecutive odd integers. Now, very similar to consecutive even, see how it still goes up by 2? So if I start with 1 and I add 2 to it, I get the next odd integer, 3. I add 2 to the 3, I get 5. I add 2 to the 5, I get 7. I add 2 to the 7, and I get 9. All right. So if I want to get the setup for 4 consecutive odd integers, right, the first is always going to be x. And then let me just write out second, third, and then fourth. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to put a mistake on here so you don't have to take this down. The common mistake is students will look at this and they'll say x plus 1, x plus 3, x plus 5. Okay, the reason why that doesn't work is because when you solve for it, if x is odd, let's say I say that x is 1. When you put this in here, 1 plus 1 gives us 2, and that's not consecutive odd. So we're always going to go up by 2. So it's actually going to be the same setup as this, even though it says that it's odd. Let's see if I can erase this. Oops. Oops. Okay, it erased everything right there. We'll try to erase this part. Okay, looks like it's not erasing it. All right, so let me get back to this. So this setup, the first is x. Now the second, even though it says odd, it still has to go up by 2. It's going to be this same setup right here. So it's x plus 2. The third integer, I add another 2 to it. It's x plus 4. And then when you get to the fourth integer, fourth consecutive odd integer, you add 2 to the x plus 4. So that's going to give us x plus 6. All right. So you can see I did the 2 colors here. Main thing is that if it says even or odd, it's always these setups right here, where it's x, x plus 2, x plus 4. If it doesn't say even or odd, then we just go up by 1. So it's the x, x plus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3. All right, and this is our basic setup for all the consecutive integer word problems.